Howdy, y'all. Just like last week, I want to tell you a little bit about my amazing guest today, Carter Easler, before I let you meet him. Carter is an educator, clinical researcher, and a passionate advocate for longevity and quality of life in companion animals. With advanced training through the College of Integrative Veterinary Therapies, he combines functional medicine principles with hands-on experience to explore how natural compounds, including medicinal mushrooms, therapeutic cannabis, and adaptogens, can support cognitive and systemic health in pets. As Director of Research and Education for MycoDog and CBD Dog Health, Carter led the groundbreaking Senior Dog Study, a decentralized clinical trial investigating the role of mushroom-derived nutraceuticals in mitigating cognitive decline. That's a mouthful. Thank God I have this to read. The study integrated caregiver surveys, wearable collar technology, and exploratory biomarkers, marking a new era in evidence-based natural veterinary research. Raised in a family of veterinarians and shaped by years of rescue work, Carter brings compassion and curiosity to every aspect of his career. He's taught internationally, developed continuing education for veterinarians and retailers, and built accessible learning platforms that help professionals and pet parents understand how to apply functional medicine safely and effectively. Today, Carter continues to champion a future where natural therapies are not just anecdotal, but scientifically validated, ethically applied, and rooted in care for the animals who share our lives. I absolutely love Carter. He works with Angela Ardolino of MycoDog and CPD Dog Health, who we've had on the podcast before. He is a ray of sunshine in a person, very nice guy, very sweet, very passionate about what he does. And I'm super excited for you guys to not only meet him, but to also hear about the Senior Dog Study, which I was blown away by. So let's hop into today's episode. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Pup and Away podcast. My name is Steph, but you may know me as Steph the Pro Dog Mom from my social medias. I am a certified canine nutritionist, behaviorist, and a trainer, and of course, you're a podcast host. And thank you so much for joining us. We are having maybe some technical difficulties, so we hope that everything goes off without a glitch. We are recording this on Monday, October 20th, which is when the AWS decided to be funky. So hopefully everything goes off without a hitch, because I've been very excited about this conversation. Today we have Carter Easler, who's the Director of Research and of Education at CBD Dog Health. And maybe I fudged up his title, so I'm just gonna hand the mic over so that way Carter can tell you all about what he's currently doing, how he's gotten here, because I've been a huge fan of a lot of his work. So take it away, Carter. Tell us about you.
Oh, thanks, Stephanie. So like she said, I'm the Director of Research and Education for CBD Dog Health and MycoDog. And really, my focus and my passion is just understanding sort of where the ancient traditions meet modern science in functional medicine for pets. And my favorite things are mushrooms and adaptogens like full spectrum hemp extract. And so it's really kind of what I've poured myself into for the last 7 years. I come from a family of veterinarians who are, yeah. So my brother and my sister-in-law and a number of other folks, they're all working in mostly emergency medicine in the veterinary field. So a kind of like a different perspective than what I bring to the table, where I'm really looking at proactive care and longevity. So it has been a good test of my wits to try and translate for them really what we're learning about the power of these healing natural substances that kind of have the impression of being brand new and these buzzwords that are being marketed to you on Instagram and all over social media, but really have so much precedent of their historical use. And what I think is kind of a misnomer is that there is a lot of evidence to support their use. So yeah, kind of my own battlegrounds at home, but then also kind of what I do every day is training veterinarians and traveling to speak at different wellness summits and education hubs to just get greater understanding out there that these things are available. Because one of the things in our study that we heard over and over again is they brought these issues around cognitive decline in senior animals to their vets, and their vet said, well, there's not really anything that we can do. So we want to change that perception.
You said so many cool things already that I already want to hit on. So who knows? We're probably going to go way off of our questions that I've already like put together.
Let's meander.
Yeah, let's do it all. You mentioned like mushrooms and CBD. It's ancient and there's a history there, but it's also new to us, right? These are, functional foods, Mother Nature's medicine that has been here forever, since before we have, and we forgot how to use it, I think, in certain parts of the world maybe. And so it's just not coming back to us to the point where, okay, now we need the science to prove that it's there. People are saying there's not enough science. People are saying there are science.
Yep.
We're going to talk about some really awesome science that you guys did recently. But, with that and the buzzwords that you just mentioned, everyone and their mom wants to make a hemp product, a mushroom product, and I think that's one of the really kind of scary but also exciting things, because everyone, obviously we know that there's something working here, but there's a lot of products out there that are just not making a quality product to when you try it, you're like, this did nothing for me. Well, it's because it's a shit product to begin with.
Oftentimes, sadly.
And so like and those moments, like we're kind of doing the plants a disservice because we're just trying to turn over something, a cheap product that, is all about the buzz and the rage. But you are with CBD Dog Health and Myco Dog. So tell us a little bit about kind of like, we've had Angela on the podcast before, so my listeners hopefully know a little bit about that, but just in case if they haven't heard that episode, tell us a little bit about that company.
Okay, well, first I have to address something that you said, because you're also saying such good stuff. It's the kind of the way that we operate now with holistic medicine is all these products being released to capitalize on the buzzwords that are really prominent. And there's kind of a lag in our education as consumers, because we live in this dominant culture where we operate under standardized pharmaceutical medicine, where like if you're getting the NSAID carprofen, that is that same molecule every single time. Whereas when you are working with organic substances that vary in strain, in geographic region, in growing conditions, in the substrate that they grow from and on, there are so many different variables that can change, and that is why it's so necessary to look at the traditions where these things were used as medicine. How were they grown? What needs to go into these things so that they have the highest therapeutic potential? And so, that is this added layer of sophistication that we have to ask of our consumers that we're getting more used to asking. I mean, the way that we look at our pet food now and read ingredient panels, we have to do the same thing when we look at hemp extract, different herbs, mushrooms, to know that the people who are making them, number one, understand that, and number two, care. And that can be hard to do for a consumer. So like I always encourage people, when you're working with a new brand, really dig in, find out who they are, find out where they came from, who is behind those formulas, and are they doing it for the right reasons? The way that I came to this world is I met our founder and formulator, Angela Ardolino, years ago on her rescue farm in Florida, Fireflake Farm, where she had at any time, 15 to 20 senior dogs, all in varying states of chaotic health that people had just kind of dumped on her doorstep, basically. And farm animals, pigs, donkeys, like all kind of run the gamut. And I lived there and worked on the farm for quite some time, and just got to watch in action this sort of other world outside of what I had grown up with that really allopathic veterinary style, and watched her adjust the diets of dogs depending on what they needed, and choose different herbs and different dosages of CBD depending on kind of where they were in their health status, using different species of mushroom for different conditions, and really see that kind of philosophy that we talk so much about of, let's work with the dog right in front of us. What does this dog, cat, chicken, pig need? and what is available in the natural world to help with that. So I got this kind of firsthand experience to see this work across so many different conditions. And and that is really where our company is built from that experience, from working with amazing integrative and holistic vets across the country and them sharing their wisdom. And yeah, just really, Angela has formulated this product line and continues to expand it just to encompass the full range of experiences that we can have as pet parents, because something's going to go wrong eventually, and we want to have the best tools and the best layered approach to dealing with them.
Yeah. And I love, putting a little bit of the science, right? So
Yeah.
we know that it works, right? You've seen it firsthand with your eyeballs. I've heard your stories. I've heard Angela's stories. I've had a lot of great experience with my dude, Sully. He's right here. He's turned 16 last Tuesday. I'm very proud
wow.
of him. And it's like a little bragging right. I also have Rishi in my other kennel over there. But,
Nice.
I know you're supposed to pronounce it Reishi, but I thought Rishi was a little cuter.
Yeah, you could say Rishi. I mean, we
So-
say reishi because we're in the United States, but reishi is like one of the cornerstones of Chinese herbal medicine, and it's known as the mushroom of immortality there. So I'm sure they're not saying reishi.
Yeah, I got her because at that time, my oldest Sully, I was like, you need a little bit of like pep in your step. He was, getting a little bit older. He was turning 9 at that time.
Mm-hmm.
He had lost his other little playmate, not because she passed away, but just because she literally chose to go live with grandma. Like she literally was like, "You're not my mom anymore."
Oh my
And I'm
God.
like, fine. So Sully was like missing that, and I was like, I need another dog to be my demo dog for Pup. So I got Rishi, and it just made sense for her to be like this little firecracker of life that comes into our house. And
Yeah.
here now, that experience Sully having that playmate definitely kind of brought a little bit of like that juvenileness back over to him. And so obviously Sully being 16, I'm going through a whole thing as a pet parent of, caring for a senior pet. So one thing that you had mentioned a little while ago, obviously, was that Canine Cognitive Decline, where people are just like, yeah, it's just part of getting old.
Right.
Like, who cares? Same
Right.
thing with lipomas, I'm finding out too. Like, it's just old man lumps and bumps. You don't can't really and shouldn't really do anything about it. And now that I'm learning so much more, I'm like, there are other things that we can do. So
Yes.
let's go into your senior dog study, because I think that was the coolest stuff. It just happened to be very well timed for me in my journey. So, I mean, the universe just aligned perfectly well for me. But I guess tell us whatever you want to first about the senior dog study, and then I'll have all my millions of questions that I'll probably ask.
Okay, well, so first, basically what this study is, it's a single arm, varied study on this long list of common symptoms that we see around cognitive decline in senior animals. We use this framework. It's called DISHAA, and stands for disorientation, interaction, soiling, house soiling, anxiety, activity, and it really gives you a comprehensive look at kind of the full experience, both of the pet and the families who are observing this. And what we found, is that what these pets are experiencing and what vets study when they try and quantify this condition overlaps so much with the therapeutic benefits of a number of different species of mushroom. And that really is sort of the basis for the design of this combination called Clarity that we have at Myco Dog, which Angela formulated. And it has some really cool mushrooms in it, like cordyceps is one that a lot of people don't know of, that is just fantastic. It helps with blood oxygenation, and it helps the mitochondria of our cells create more energy. So for our old dogs, I mean, we can think that kind of we want to just allow them to rest as the primary thing, and that's a huge part of it. But we also want them to have more vitality, more activity during the day. So that blood oxygenation, increasing the oxygen that can get to the brain, that cellular energy that from the ground up gives them more of just a balanced energy throughout their day. That's kind of one facet of it. Using mushrooms like lion's mane, which is also in Clarity, known to be a potent nootropic, meaning it can create new neurons and new connections in the brain and central nervous system. It's highly antioxidant. It's great for the gut microbiome, which is where we know that gut-brain axis, the beneficial microbes in the gut are essential to the production of so many different enzymes and hormones, serotonin. And then reishi, as your adorable little pup is repping over there. Reishi is just fantastic for sleep, memory, inflammation. Other herbs that we have in there are ashwagandha and bacopa monnieri, two other really well-studied, powerful nutraceuticals. Ashwagandha has been studied for its ability to control cortisol levels, so the stress hormone. Bacopa monnieri is used a lot more in human medicine for its benefits to cognition, memory, sleep. So this formula is like a really all-encompassing kind of brain focus, nervous system, rest, support. It's phenomenal. And it was really amazing to see in this study quantifiable results that completely match what we have found in practice and with all the vets who use Clarity that we work with, all of the retailers who are reporting stories of these dogs sleeping through the night again, having greater energy during the day, more recognition of their pet parents, but also the rhythms and the patterns and the things that they used to kind of have as the mainstay of their waking hours. It is sort of a universal experience to see dogs age, but we wanted to really look at this kind of specific thing that is so common. I mean, there are 50% of pet owning households have dogs that are experiencing CCD. So it's common and more common than people really think of it.
Because I think people just think, oh, my dog is getting old.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And yes, I mean, obviously there is aging, but it's just so interesting how the body and the mind and the spirit obviously all age at different times.
Yeah.
And I think, from the results that I've read from the study is that, for some of them, maybe we're not turning back the hands of time, but we're also, and we'll talk about like all the results in just a little bit, but if you can slow that down a little bit, if you can reverse some of those things, it truly is a huge blessing because you start to see your dog again,
exactly
who they are. And then to have a little bit more of that time to maybe like at first you kind of took it for granted and you're like, okay, well now I can have a little bit more of that quality time with you all over again. And I know that I can definitely take full advantage of it and then take that next step together more gracefully.
Yeah.
Which I think is super cool.
Absolutely. And one of the really cool things about working with animals is there is no placebo effect. When you see them feeling better, they just, you can tell it, you can see it in their face, you can see it in the way that they walk. And this being such a personal condition where it really is about, watching your friend fade away potentially, to be able to see, that connection, the eye contact that comes back, them being able to remember commands. It's really personal for people, and it can change your life. And what's really been amazing is to see how quickly these dogs respond to it. Commonly it's in a matter of a couple weeks. Even some of them, it's like a few days later. I know of 3 instances, two that happened directly to me and one to one of our coworkers, Jenny, where folks were on the edge. They had booked a euthanasia appointment, and we were like, just try this. Just try this. And canceled their euthanasia appointment. 3 different people because their dogs responded quickly and dramatically.
Yeah.
And
dang. That's awesome.
It's so cool. It's so cool to be able to that, it's a hopeful message, it's like in this dark world we live in, it's nice to have, it's nice to know like, hey, the mushrooms are doing good.
Yeah, someone is doing well. So the study just conducted, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, we just commenced.
Completed.
We completed. We just finished
Yes.
it. So how long was the study in total, and how many dogs were in the study?
Well, I've been working on it for about a year and a half, almost 2 years now,
Okay.
through the design phase, through recruitment, initiation, observation, then the supplementation phase, and then the observation thereafter. So it's been a while, but the study itself was a 12-week course. So
Okay.
at the beginning, we observe them, do like a level set of all their kind of markers. Then we start them on Clarity, using it twice a day. And then at the end, we continue to monitor them for a couple weeks afterwards. And yeah, it was really important for us to make sure that we were doing good science, because
Yeah. You're
it's
going to be looked at hardcore.
absolutely, and we're inviting it. We always
Yeah,
do. That's
please,
like,
scrutinize, yeah.
it's the whole point of us doing this. Like we're not doing this to keep it to ourselves and pat ourselves on the back. It's like we really want this conversation to get out there. So when people go to their vet and they say, "Hey, my dog is experiencing this," maybe that vet has heard of this little company that did a study on mushrooms and
Yeah.
found that there were positive effects. Maybe if a pet parent finds it and their friend has used this, they might go, "Hey, wait, mushrooms could be good for my parents' cognitive health." So much of what we're learning through our animals is directly transferable to humans. We're not nearly as different as we think. So the more people we can get to understand this and hear about this, I think the greater benefit it has. I got totally off topic there, but
I don't think there was a very specific question. We were just talking about, like, I guess how long it's been, and then you kind of took us through all the steps.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I found that was very interesting, and I'm not going to say his name correctly. I'm just going to call him Dr. Joel. Joel or Joel?
Joel,
Either one.
yeah.
Joel. Okay, I got both of his names wrong. Do you know how to say his last name?
Yes, it's Aaron Zweig.
Ahrensvik. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, is that German?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I have 2 German schnauzers, but I don't speak a lick of German.
Yeah.
By any means.
There's a lot of Z's and W's and things in that
Yeah,
name.
I was like, I'm not going to do that well. And I will definitely put in the notes for this episode the one that you guys did on your Natural Dog podcast, which is Angela's podcast, where all 3 of you guys were speaking. But I thought that him being on the team, I thought was a very interesting choice, not in a bad way, obviously, but just because it sounded like he not was skeptical, but he was like, I'm not quite too sure what we're going to find. And
Right.
It sounded like he was very surprised at the end
Yeah.
about what y'all discovered in the study. Can you talk a little bit about that, just so I'm not putting words in his mouth?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, so when I found Joel, it was at a veterinary conference that I was attending, and he was there representing his organization, the Veterinary Health Research Centers, and their specialization and what they have been studying and publishing peer-reviewed papers on has been cognitive decline for the last 10 years. And he's also a vet who's been in practice for almost 30 years. So he just had a really kind of directly applicable experience in clinical research and cognitive decline in dogs. And but that being said, came from a very different world, a much more kind of pharmaceutical focused kind of specialization. And so, at the beginning, he was a skeptic, as you said, but we want to look at research with a skeptical eye, I think.
Yeah.
And to have somebody who's like, okay, well, how do we really prove this? And so he tempered my expectations and said, well, the best thing that we can hope for is that things don't get worse. I'm like, okay, Joel, well, that's not exactly what we're seeing from all these dogs that are already using it. But I can't wait to prove you wrong. And so we got to designing the study, and he has quite a range of knowledge on how to study this condition and how to create a study that will hold up. And but I even pushed him a little bit further. I wanted to kind of have another arm where we really looked deeper at some specific and novel biomarkers of neurogenesis in the brain. So biomarkers like BDNF and CRP that we really had to search for labs that had validated testing that we could do it. But I thought that that was important to have, not only subjective, but objective, and then even greater layers of objective measurement on this. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
And he was like, "This is awesome."
Yeah.
I mean, he all found the results, and he was kind of, I think, blown away in a bit to everything.
Yeah, I mean, he said
because there were strong results.
He was, as it was happening, as the data was coming in, we would have our weekly meetings, and he'd be like, "You're not going to believe this. Like, look at this dog, Delilah. Her sleep has gone up by 40 minutes on average per night. She's having less interruptions." I'm like, "I know, Joel. It's great. I'm so glad we got numbers that we can look at that prove this."
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess let's talk a little bit more about the study and like all the different things that you guys did. So y'all recruited pets that are in humans, obviously they're in humans' homes, but in humans' homes. So they're pet dogs. Were they all over the United States? Were they like clumped into different areas?
Yeah, so it was really open enrollment across the United States. We had about 600 submissions to join the study. And so, that represents a really broad swath of the country, but, regional differences. Mountain dogs, beach dogs, prairie dogs, all over the place, of varying income levels, so different food that they're feeding, a range of ages. I think our youngest dog was 8 years old and our oldest one was 16.
Okay.
And so, all of them, though, having been whittled down based on this validated series of criteria looking at this specific condition. So we were able to take that large group and whittle it down to 30 dogs who were in our study across the country, and then a smaller cohort that was our in-clinic patients, where they were all around Richmond, Virginia, going to this one clinic for their regular blood biomarker draws and behavioral analysis. And that was important just to have, part of the cohort really hands-on, not just with Dr. Joel, but with a veterinarian in person looking at them and taking more detailed kind of vital analysis.
Oh, okay, dope. I think one thing that I was confused by was, so you had the 30 dogs that you're getting. We'll talk about like their tracking devices and stuff and just their collars in a second. And also the human, like their pet parent questionnaire.
Yes.
So out of those 30, some of them also were getting their BDNF and the other one.
Yes.
Okay, I thought it was two completely separate cohorts. It was like a full, and then some of them in the cohort were also getting blood markers.
Well, yes. So it's 20 dogs were just virtual, and then 10 dogs were from the clinic. And
gotcha.
They're all being measured on the same DISH-AA protocol, that survey that's completed by the pet parents, 24-hour monitoring device, and then the in-clinic cohort is where we have our blood biomarkers measured.
Gotcha. So the kiddos that were getting in clinic were not also wearing collars.
They were also wearing collars.
They were also wearing collars.
Yeah.
Okay. My brain
just that
like
added layer.
Gotcha. Okay, that's cool. So when I thought that they were completely different dogs, I was like, oh man, why? I would be so interested to know if the data on the collars was matching the data in the blood markers.
Yes.
Sounds like yes. We did get that.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
we're at it. That's why we're kind of layering up all of our different measurement tools.
Yeah, that's super cool. So tell us a little bit about the tracking stuff, because you have the collars that were obviously able to get down a quantifiable range. You knew that, that certain dog was getting on average 40 minutes, not based because the pet parent was like, I just feel like she's sleeping more.
Right.
And then there was also the questionnaire that the parents filled out. So tell us a little bit, I guess let's start off with the collar.
Yeah. So, I mean, having the two of them together is really important. People kind of talk down about the more subjective side data, but it is data. It is it really gives us something to kind of compare to that more kind of hard analytical numbers. The biological data that we're getting from the collars showing through the night how long they're sleeping, as I said, how many interruptions they have when it's deep sleep or more kind of restless sleep during the day, tracking how much time they spend walking around, how much time they are doing vigorous activity, also being able to track kind of more specific behaviors like pacing, because the collars have some really great AI software that can match different kind of movement patterns to different behaviors. And they're wearing that 24 hours a day from the beginning of the study until the end. And so we get this really amazing picture, but then it's also something that we can take and match against our surveys and see, like Susan said, that her dog Delilah was less restless last week and was sleeping more soundly through the night. And we can go and we can say, yep, she's down from an average of 6 interruptions per night to 4. And
awesome.
And so by having both of those pieces, you get to you can contextualize the numbers and show the lived experience of these changes in behavior. And it can be during the day more interested in interaction. That they were more playful with the other dogs in their house and not as annoyed by them. And we can see vigorous activity went up over the last couple weeks. So it's really cool. But then there are plenty of behaviors that can't be studied on the collars, like house soiling. A lot of our dogs, they have urinary incontinence. They get lost and forget and don't remember to ask to go outside as they used to. Yeah. And so we have more house soiling. We have more anxiety, as you often see in humans who have cognitive decline. They get frustrated with themselves and why they can't, the confusion of it. That's a really subjective experience, but something that when we're tracking it week to week, you really are able to, or rather these pet parents are forced to just look closer at their animals. Yeah. And they are the best source of information that we have. You know your pet the best. And I'm sure that it's true of your listeners. These are folks who really kind of get it. They're 2.0 pet parents, as they say in the biz, and they're already have a leg up on how to feed them properly, how to look for changes, but having this kind of imperative to do it on a weekly basis just gets you in the rhythm and into the kind of just a finer look at what's really happening.
Yeah.
So
cool.
I was grateful to have such active and engaged pet parents.
Yeah, I realized that one of my good friends who actually met at Feed Real 2 years ago, and ever since then we always get a house together, that her dog was in the study. Lindy and Harry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I didn't know Harry was in the study, and she was like, oh yeah, it was so much fun. So that was really cool to also get her perspective on it from someone that was in the study too. Let's talk about the results, because I think that they are pretty profound. I think that they are pretty. Okay, what was the statistic? It was 81% of dogs?
So 81% of the dogs in our study either had a stabilization or an improvement in their cognitive scores.
That's so cool.
It is a really promising number, that it was over a majority of the dogs, and that there were no adverse reactions throughout the study.
That's the biggest point, I think, too. Yeah, not only is it so super impactful, but there was no, oh, but now your dog has arthritis because they created inflammation,
right.
Or now your dog is going to have, diarrhea because whatever the heck it might be from all these other medications.
Right. Yeah.
Which is super cool.
Yeah, it covers a lot of different therapeutic modalities by helping with inflammation, by helping with neurogenesis, the gut microbiome, the energy of the cells. It's it's no wonder that we're seeing such profound results with these senior dogs. I mean, whether they were kind of a perfect case for CCD or not, they're all senior dogs can benefit from being on mushrooms. But yeah, our cohort specifically, we learned so much, just more specific information about how this affects our dogs. And one thing that is sort of like a duh, like we talk about it all the time, but the part of our cohort who had the greatest improvement were our moderate cases. So if you take a cross section of the severity that they're rated on this 64-point scale, those that lie between I think it's 18 and 35 is our moderate range. Those are the ones that we saw the fastest improvement and also the most profound changes in their scoring, which really kind of directly aligns with when we talk about, taking proactive care, not waiting until we are in a crisis situation and then trying to undo years of degeneration. There's the opportunity to really affect change and work for longevity is in that middle range when we can detect it early and we can start supporting them then. But that being said, we had great cases in our extreme or our severe case or our severe section of the cohort that did really well as well.
Just not as well, like their markers maybe didn't move as far as the kiddos.
Yeah,
in the middle.
just like the median change is most pronounced in those early middle stages.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Which makes sense, I mean, like when we have these progressive neurodegenerative diseases, we have basically brain tissue wearing away, neurons becoming disconnected and dying. And so it's kind of like arthritis, when you've got these ligaments and tissues under inflammation rubbing against each other and breaking down over time, eventually that breaks down and you end up bone on bone. And at that point, what are you going to do? It's kind of the same thing with the brain. Like we want to cut out that inflammation and degeneration and loss and start building back. But we gotta get there while there's still we got
still
the tool
material to work with.
I think. I mean, I am interpolating the data a little bit and making inferences. Excuse me, but yeah, it really kind of aligns with so many different cases that we see across the use of natural therapeutics.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a couple of professionals and industry leaders about like joint health, and they're always saying like, if you have the athletic dog, even though they're not limping yet, it's still great. If you have the senior dog or the large breed dog, even though they're not limping yet, start now. And so now that I'm going down that road, mostly for Sully because obviously he's 16. With Rishi, part of me is like, you don't need this yet. But you do, let's do all those things now. So then that way, she doesn't need to start hurting before I do something about it.
Right. And maybe you do it in a less aggressive way. You're not using the same kind of therapeutic dose that you would with an animal that is in the throes of this condition for 5 or 6 year old dog that you just want to help kind of balance their immune system, help with neurogenesis. I mean, one of the things that is so interesting about the data is that the relationship between BDNF and CRP, research shows kind of repeatedly that these two biomarkers are quite linked. BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, so it shows up when the brain is creating new neurons. CRP is this sort of generalized inflammation marker throughout the body, a little bit less specified towards the brain and neurological system. But this relationship, there's a pattern where when CRP is high, so inflammation is high, then BDNF is low. So high inflammation makes it really hard for the body to create new neurons and to build new connections. And conversely, when BDNF is high, CRP is pretty dependably on the lower side of the scale. That's awesome. That's a really kind of interesting relationship that again is like, duh, like it totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. But then you see it in the data and you're like, okay, yes, confirm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's working.
Yeah, it's working.
Did you notice that where they go up like in a 1-to-1 ratio? Like the more that BDNF went up, kind of at the same pattern, the same rate. The other one that I cannot remember, the
CRP.
CRP. I was like, CPR is not correct. That would go down. Or did you find that like it really all just kind of depended on the dog itself?
Yeah, it varies quite a lot because we're studying dogs with all sorts of different comorbidities. Like we're looking at 14, 15-year-old dogs that have anything, arthritis, tumors. So like their starting values are kind of all over the place depending on what case they are. And that is why we want to continue this study. We want to keep learning about this. We've got our ongoing digital cohort we're continuing to take applicants for our next round and hope to do even more. So you can go to seniordogstudy.com if you've got a dog with CCD or you just got an old dog, you want to find out if maybe, you can fill out the survey and you'll basically find out kind of where does your dog sit on this scale. But yeah, so really we need more. We need more information. And because these biomarkers are also, like I said, pretty novel. And so there are, we're measuring CRP on a different scale than BDNF and kind of layering them over each other is a challenge. And so a lot of variables, but still we're able to kind of draw that down, simplify the data, and draw those patterns.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I love everything about the study. Number one, that y'all did it to begin with, right? How you guys did it, I think it was a very intentional, very mindful opportunity for you to look at all different types of data, right? Qualitative and quantitative, and getting those. Because I think it's also really important to understand what having a senior dog is for the human, right?
Yeah.
To support someone through that, to be the person that's caring for a senior dog is very emotionally tolling.
Yep.
It's sad to watch, right? Luckily, with Sully, we've had some ups and downs, and luckily I've been able to make some changes and some adjustments. Myco Dog and CBD Dog Health totally being some of the two that I see huge differences with him. But it's very interesting too how we can kind of look at this research from the pet parents also, because they're noticing a difference and they're also getting more sleep at night, which is even better for them, which is all great. Yeah,
I think that what's really cool about these, it kind of goes back to something I always say is there's no silver bullet when it comes to our pet's health. There's no one thing that you're going to do that is going to just change everything overnight. And that's kind of the trick of our medical system is like, okay, everything's better for now until the next thing. But what this offers, what medicinal mushrooms and adaptogens offer, is a really fantastic tool that can just help to bring things back to a state of balance. Just bring things back, rein it into balance. And that as a pet parent is such a gift, especially with something like this, where if they're waking up through the night, then you're waking up through the night. And then
unless you're my husband.
Yeah. But
he'll sleep through anything.
Lucky for him.
I'm the one that gets up, the dog's sneeze wrong and I'm and he's totally still asleep.
Right. But then if you have a really rough night, how does that affect your next day? And how are you the next day? And how much bandwidth do you have to observe your dog, to take them out to play, to run them, to engage with them? And what we know, of course, is, like I said, no silver bullet. We want to have a layered approach to their health and wellness, and that asks for active engagement. And this multifactorial disease, it's so important that we're looking at what are these natural tools and medicines that we can use, what are the environmental conditions that may be leading to further degeneration. It's like you're talking about with Rishi and Sully, and how it brightened him up when he had someone to play with and someone to engage with. So it's about diet, it's about having the right food, the right sources for the beneficial microbiota to thrive. That affects cognition and inflammation. So that can sound overwhelming, but it gives me hope. every next little piece that I learn that I can integrate into a whole philosophy about health, while then having just really specific targets and tools that I know more and more about and how to use.
Yeah. I think you said all of that so beautifully, and I think that kind of wraps everything up. One, our time, but number two, our conversation. It's a whole picture, sort of deal, obviously, environmental, what they're eating, their, exercise, what supplements are we giving, how are we bringing ourselves to the table, and just knowing that, there are simple yet, easy but still profound things that you can be doing. Something just as simple as a badass mushroom tincture can really, 81% of dogs saw a difference in that. So I think there's a lot of value, especially like you mentioned, if you start, on the early side of it all. And I also would be very interested to know, if you ever thought about like plugging one other factor into the study, which I think would make it a lot more difficult, was kiddos who were just on mushrooms only, and then kiddos that were on mushrooms and the CBD.
I know. I would love to do that. And there were so many cases where I was like, damn, this dog really needs some hemp extract.
But don't do it.
But I can't. Right. But then I'm like, I'm clouding the data. I've ruined the kind of
after
repeatability.
The 12 weeks, then start this too.
Well, that's what we did. I was like, okay, now you're done. Take this.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I bet those kiddos probably had even a bigger positive outcome through those things. Just adding the synergy, CBD, because the synergistic properties of it all are super amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Carter, I know that you have another podcast to hop onto. You're a
popular
popular man these days, especially with this badass research coming out. So I thank you for your time. Everyone, listeners, I will be put up all of the resources in the show notes. So that podcast episode where Carter and Dr. Joel and Angela were on her podcast talking more about the study. I'll also put in the direct link to the study page to the website, and I think there on that page, Carter, is that also where people can take the little questionnaire as well?
Yep, it's on there.
Okay, perfect. So if you haven't seen your dog too and you're like, hey, maybe my dog's already showing some cognitive decline, you could look at that and then also possibly get your dog in the next cohort of study, because I'm very happy that you guys are still continuing to do more and collect more data. I'm sure it's costly both financially and mentally and all the things.
But it's so important, and
it's so awesome.
That's why we're here. We want everybody to kind of realize how much there is to learn and how much benefit we can have for ourselves and our pets.
And it's so simple, and it could be so freaking helpful.
And it's fun. It's so cool. It's so cool.
When you read about it, I was like, ooh, I grabbed my popcorn. Angela sent it to me, and I was like, I gotta read this. I read it like 2 or 3 times just because it was so interesting, and it also was very digestible for someone who doesn't know how to read research papers.
Don't be intimidated by it. I think that it's...
don't be. I like to read research papers, and it slows me down, obviously, and sometimes I do need ChatGPT's help. But your all study was very, very easy to read and understand.
I'm glad it was.
So, Carter, thank you so much. Is there anything that you want to mention to the readers before I let you go? Or the readers, the listeners?
You can follow us on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook at CBDDogHealth.com, at Mushrooms for Dogs is Myco I'm on Instagram at The Functional Pet, and
I don't think I knew that one. I gotta go find The Functional Pet.
She's new.
Okay, good. I was like, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not that behind then. Very good. Well, I'll also be linking all of those too. So everyone, thank you so much for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed. And Carter, thank you so much for being here. Hope you can get a little bit of rest before your next podcast.
Thanks, Stephanie. See you soon.
All right. See you guys later. Have a good one. Now, that might be the end of the episode, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. Follow us on social media. I'd love to connect with you. We have quite a few social media platforms. For nutrition and holistic pet care tips, follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Steph the Pro Dog Mom. You can find fun training tips on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram at Pup and Away SA. If you're in San Antonio and you want to bring your dog to us for boarding, training, socialization, and nutrition, come find us. But if you're not in San Antonio, we do training and nutrition sessions virtually. Yes, they can be just as effective, I promise. Please rate, review, and subscribe to my podcast on whatever platform you listen on, and please, please, please share with a friend. The positive reinforcement of knowing people actually listen to this and find it valuable helps motivate me to keep on recording. We'll see you guys at the next episode.